Are you tired of detecting your clips in your scene manually? I am, certainly, and scene cut detection is the answer to that. So stick around because we're going to talk about what scene cut detection is, why it's important, how you use it, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for taking a second to watch this video. My name is Alex. If you're new around here, welcome to the channel. I'm a DaVinci Resolve certified trainer, but I'm also a professional videographer, and I help companies, brands, businesses do better with video. We help them make more video, we help them to do it faster and more effectively, and that's through editing, but also through other things like production, and also when it comes to delivery as well, how they can do that better too. If you're interested in learning any more about what we do at Depict here, then please do take a look in the description below. Equally, we train in DaVinci Resolve as well, so you can also access information about the training below in this video too. I originally did this video as part of a live stream, but due to some small technicalities and other bits that go on during a live stream, I've decided to do a little re-recording for you and just concentrate on scene cut detection. So let's dive into scene cut detection and look a little bit more about what that is exactly. So scene cut detection for me is essentially just a way that DaVinci Resolve is able to take a master clip and break it up, creating all of the independent edit points for you. And again, to do that in such a way that you're not having to do that yourself, going through it all manually. Now, why is that important? Well, for example, for a use case for us, we actually had a situation where we'd pretty much wrapped on a project, we'd rendered out a master file, and just before a very big deadline, the client came back to us and said, we need to make a change, and we weren't actually available to do that at the time. We were away from our main editing system, so we had to take our laptop. But luckily, because we had that master file, so in this case it was a high-res ProRes file, we were able to very easily just bring that in, ingest it back into DaVinci Resolve, do scene cut detection on it, take out the little clip that was a problem and actually fix it. There was some VFX work that was required, and then put it back and render it out, and away we went. And it was all really simple. It was much faster than us trying to send media back and forth or a timeline back and forth with the relevant project files and all sorts of things. It just wouldn't have worked in the time that we had available. So that's really very powerful. It's often the quickest way to do something like that. And the great news is in DaVinci Resolve 17, it's even easier to do. So what we want to do is dive over to DaVinci Resolve 17, and I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. Now, of course, if you were using DaVinci Resolve 16 or you're not yet on the studio version of 17, then there's an old way to do it, and there's also a new way to do it if you are on studio. So let's have a look at the old way first, and then I'll show you the new way. So the old way of doing it, for everybody who's not on DaVinci Resolve 17 Studio, is like this. Now, one of the caveats to it is it has to be done at the point of ingest, which is why I'm in the media page here. So here I am in the media page. I've got a shot here that we did, and it's not a shot, it's a full clip of a wedding, and I'm going to bring it into the media pool. But before I do, I want to break it up into these different clips. So I'm going to right click, come down here to scene cut detection, and I'm going to click. So what happens now is I get the scene detect box popping up and completely blank at the minute. So what I want to do is I want to start scene cut detection, and I'm going to do that by using the button here for auto scene detect. And it's going to run through looking at all of the footage, and it's going to put in where it thinks the edit points are. And you can see that the green lines on the graph are edit points. The grey lines on the graph are actually edit points that it's excluding from this particular shot, and you can see that pink line in the middle. So let's look at this graph area first and just explain what it means. So the green lines denote that these are cuts that are being included. The grey lines show that these are cut points that are being excluded, and the pink line is the line of confidence. So if I were to drop the line of confidence down, you'll see how some of these light up and become green. As I raise it up, some of these cuts go grey, and actually we lose confidence in some of the shots that are anything below that line. So only the shots above that line remain. So I'm going to bring it back down. I'm going to set it fairly low actually, because I know in this case I can afford to do that. So I'm going to set it quite low, and we're going to look at that a bit more. Now what you'll see is my list on the right hand side is updated. Every time I just move that pink line, you'll see how if I do this, then we lose the amount of shots obviously that are all under that line. So this is essentially an index of all the different edit points that we're looking at. So I'm going to bring it down again and set it just here for now, and let's sort of look at what these viewers mean at the top. So the left hand viewer essentially is the last frame of the outgoing shot before the cut, and the middle one is the frame just after the cut, and then the second one on the right is the second frame just after the cut. So what you're hoping for when you get on a cut point is to see the outgoing frame on the left be very different, then see the 2 points middle and right looking pretty much identical. that would indicate a good solid cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to move through this and we're going to see if we've got good points being created by DaVinci Resolve here automatically. The keyboard shortcuts that you're going to want to know in this case are the N and P keys. The N and P keys allow you to move through, so N for next, and you can navigate through, you can see everything's moving through. P for previous, and we go backwards. So let's just start right at the beginning. That looks fine. We'll move to the next point, and it's the first green line we come across, and you can see that we've got the outgoing shot just here. We've got the incoming shot here and here. That looks to be a good cut point. Now, of course, if it's a bit zoomed out, you can use the slider here just to zoom in a little bit more and get a better feel for what we're doing. So let's look at the beginning of here. Now you'll notice that if I hit the N key to go forward, that we've now got a shot here where, again, the viewers aren't lining up the way that we would like them to, so we know that this is not a good cut point. So what we can do in this case is just delete it by pressing the delete button here, or the add button obviously would add one, but in this case we want to delete it, and that will actually delete that cut point from our list on the right here. So if I go back now to the previous one, you can see that's where we were before. If I now hit the next key, it will jump to our next considered green line, which in this case is another one where it thinks it's got the shot and it's not right, so we need to remove it. In this case we can press the minus key, and that will also do the same thing as pressing the delete button at the bottom. So dissolves are always a tricky thing for the system to work out whether it's a cut or not. And you'll see typically that a dissolve looks very much like this pyramid shape that we have here. Let's just move forward and see if this next cut's correct. It looks to be good. And let's move forward again and see. In fact, there's quite a big area here, so I'm just going to look through here and see if we've missed a cut point somewhere through here. Sure enough, we have actually missed a cut point. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my left and right arrow keys to go back. So in this case, just the left arrow key. That's the situation we know is actually bang on a cut point. So we're going to add one in pressing the plus key this time. That's added in, and now I can move forward with confidence knowing that that one has been added. So I've now got those correct cut points. Let's just see if there's any more. Of course, you can use your spacebar to play through, and you'll see here that we actually have a dissolve. And again, this pyramid is very indicative of that situation going on, where there's a dissolve or a transition that's getting in the way. So what I want to do here is I want to come in and sort this out a little bit. Now, I could go through all of these manually and delete them and what have you, but I think that would be a bit tedious. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my in and out point to then define a range to prune. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark out the in and the out. Now I can do that here. I've got two buttons here that I can do that with just underneath the right hand viewer, marking in or marking out. So you can hopefully see those there. If you can't see those, then you can also use the in and out key. So I'm going to press the I key. I'm going to come the other side and mark an out with the O key, like that. And now I've done that, I'm going to hit the prune button up here. And I've pruned it. And now what you'll see is by pruning it, it's going to leave literally the very strongest, most probable chance of a cut. And in this case, it's left us this one. Let's have a zoom in and see if that's doing any good. So if I just press the keys, arrow keys to go back and forth here, you can see that actually the cut point it's got there is pretty strong. And actually, I think that's going to be where we leave it. So that's perfect. I can actually reset these in and out points by coming up here to this option panel and then resetting the marks. And I can carry on through looking at my edit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out. And we're just going to go through a little bit further, try a few more. So press the N key to go to the next one. That looks like a good cut. And again, it looks good. Again, looks good. Happy with that so far. P key to just go back and check for previous. Again, we might have missed a cut point here, so let's just have a look. Yep, sure enough, we've missed a cut, so let's just add that one in using our left and right keys to go back. There's our cut point, plus key to add one, and we can move forward through. So again, it's not a perfect science, but it's doing a very good job for us for the whole, and we're moving through here. Let's just keep going through using the N and P keys. Happy with all of these, and now we're going to hit a dreaded dissolve. So let's do the same process again. Mark an in, move it later, mark an out, hit prune, job done. Let's have a look how well that did. Let's go to the previous. And sure enough, yeah, it's done a pretty good job there as well. I think that's probably a good cut point for us, which is great. And again, we can move forward again. There's a dissolve here. So let's take care of the dissolve in the same way. And what I'm going to do here is just actually move my in and out points by just grabbing them and dragging them, like so. And again, hitting prune. Let's just go back to that one, see if it's any good. In fact, this case, I think it's not quite got it right. So let's just zoom in a bit closer. And I think if I use my left and right keys to move through, it's probably more likely that the best shot for it is there. So it's probably a frame out. So let's add it in. Let's go back to the previous one using the P key, and delete it. And we would work through in this way. So we'd go all the way through our timeline, making sure that we have all of our cuts selected appropriately. Now, again, what I would say to you is that if you have an area like this, there's a big black area, indicates that something maybe has gone wrong, because that's quite a large area for no cuts to happen. And sure enough, there's a shot here that is not been included. So let me play through. There we go. There's a cut point there that needs to be included there. So I'm going to add that in. And again, you'd work through. Now, what typically throws off a cut or an issue with a cut? Well, it's often because the shot was very similar and it couldn't pick up any discerning difference. It might be that the shot was very quick. It could be that there was a whip pan. It could be that there was a light flash or something like that that's got in the way. So bear in mind that anything like that's potentially going to throw off the system, and it could be that you have to go in and manually add some cut points. But the good point is you work your way through. Now, I know that this is only a 3-minute video and it might be a bit tedious to try and work on maybe a longer program. The good thing is that at least DaVinci Resolve have thought of that, or Blackmagic Design have thought of that. And what you can do is actually save your process. So, for example, if I just come out of here, nothing's going to have changed. I won't have added any clips to my media pool. If I go back, I can go back and I can do scene cut detection, and it's all gone back exactly where it was just a second ago. Obviously, that won't be the case if I leave DaVinci Resolve. If I quit and go, it won't help me. So what I need to do is I need to come up to the option panel and go save scene cut. Once I've done that, I can save it, and I can save it to anywhere I like. So in this case, I'm just going to put scene cut. There we go, and hit save. And that's going to save my scene cut file. Now, what I would do now is obviously quit out of Resolve. And again, if you were, as I said, doing a long session, you'd have done your work, you'd have saved your progress and go home, come back. When you come back to DaVinci Resolve in the morning, if you'd exited out, when you then next try to come into scene cut, you'd again load up the same media clip, you'd do scene cut in the same way, but this would all be blank and you wouldn't be able to access any of your previously made cuts. So the good point is here, you could then come in, right click, load scene cut, find the scene cut.sc file and then open it. And sure enough, it would load back into DaVinci Resolve and you'd be away to go again. So that's really very useful indeed. Now, once we're done and we're happy with all of this stuff, then it's very easy for us to very quickly come and add all the cuts to the media pool. If you come over here, you've got a little button at the bottom called Add Cuts to Media Pool, and that's what we're going to do when we're all done. So I'm going to add the cuts to the media pool. Now, it doesn't look like anything's happened at this point. In fact, it has. If I just close the Scene Cut dialog box, you can see here that I've got a whole load of new shots in my media pool, which have been automatically detected, and I've got these. So there's a cut, there's a shot there. And you can see that we've got the shots here that have all been nicely trimmed and are now individual shots in their own right, thank you to the scene cut detection. So that's great. And the great thing is now, if I wanted to, I could come into my timeline. Again, I could see all my shots here. I could simply select them all, drag them onto the timeline, drop them down, and you can see I've got my master file chopped up into all the individual different scenes. When I jump into color, I can then obviously grade all of these individually. I could take them into Fusion, do visual effects. I could also come back and take out certain shots as well. So that's really great. And that is still an option for you if you are either on 16 or earlier and you haven't yet upgraded to 17, or if you haven't yet upgraded to the studio version of 17. That's still available to you, and it is really very useful indeed. As I say, you do want to just take a bit of care going through, making sure all those cut points are just bang on, because if you can see here, we've got a particular shot and there's lots of different versions of this particular clip which aren't quite right. They form actually one part of the whole shot. So in this case, we probably needed to do a bit more work making sure the cuts were correct. But you get the idea and you know how you're doing it. The drawbacks of doing it this way, as I said before, first of all, you have to do it when you are ingesting the media. You get no choice of doing it after the fact, and that's a bit of a problem because you might want to do it later. The other thing that you'll notice is that also we've got all of these generated shots, which is great, but when they come down and we're on the timeline and we're looking at these particular shots, the problem that we have with this is that they are closed off. There's no additional handles. They're just literally where the in point was, where the out point was, where the cut point was made. That's how it generates the clip. So there's no additional wiggle room either side of the cut point to trim or roll those edits if they were incorrect. Equally, I can't join them. I can't make the same clip and merge it together again. And that's a bit of a problem. So that could be something that trips you up later on, and it's well worth upgrading to the studio version if you see yourself doing this regularly, because the way the studio version now works in 17 is very different. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to highlight everything in my timeline and delete it. I'm going to come back to my media page just because I can. I'm going to actually take all these clips out of my media pool for now. and I'm going to get rid of those, and I'm going to bring in the master ProRes file that I had before and bring it straight into the media pool, not going into scene cut detection this time. And what I'm going to do is come back to the edit page. I'm going to throw this onto a timeline, like so. And there you can see there's the project file or the immediate native file as it should be. And this time what we're going to do is come to timeline. So remember, this is new for DaVinci Resolve 17 in the studio version. And I'm going to come down to detect scene cuts. And I'm going to let that do its thing. And it will work through in much the same way that it did before, but this time it's all being done in the timeline. And it really is pretty quick for the most part. To be honest, if you have a powerful machine, it will chunder through it pretty quickly. If it's a little slower, like all these things, it's probably worth going to get yourself a cup of tea and coming back when it is done, especially if it's a longer program. I mean, this is only 3 minutes or so, so it's not too bad. Equally, this is a pretty fast MacBook Pro 2019 model that I'm working on, and it is pretty quick. This is all using the neural engine of DaVinci Resolve as well. So this is why it's a studio only feature, because the new way that it works, the scene cut detection out, is through this AI and the neural engine. So again, another reason worth upgrading to the studio version for. I did a video before about the studio version. It's well worth looking at. It's only £235 at this time, and it's, again, a real no-brainer for certainly anybody who's looking to take the next step with their video editing. So what's it done now? Well, as you can see, it's broken everything up into its individual shots like we had before. You'll notice I haven't got a whole load of new clips in the media pool, which is actually quite nice. I think it doesn't sort of clutter everything up. As we come in here, you can see that each cut point is actually just basically a through edit. And all that means is that those two clips have been split. So it's basically just gone through and split up our master file, not actually created new clips for us, which is really actually nice, because if you wanted to just roll the edit point, you still could, but for the most part, you could also join it back up again as well. And that's actually how we go about fixing any errors. So let's go through and see quickly what errors we've got doing it this way. Using your up and down keys to navigate through your shots, you can very quickly go and look through. Then what I tend to do is use my left arrow to just jump back one and double check where the edit point is. Yep, as you can see here, left and right, looks good. That's exactly what I should be expecting. Now, what I can see here, however, is, do you remember before it missed one of these shots? Well, actually now it's picked it up this time, which is quite useful. So I think sometimes the neural engine is actually a little bit more accurate, and it's already put that cut point in, which is great. So let's just move through. Again, dissolves are going to be a bit of a problem, and in fact, it's missed this one altogether. So let's just move through. Now, if it has missed one, or you want to take it out, then two important keyboard shortcuts that will be really useful to you are Option, \\. Now, I never really know which one \/ is, but it's the one that's leaning back, just for anybody who wasn't fully aware. So \/ is that one. And what we want to do here is find, using our left and right point, the point where the cut needs to happen, and then we're going to press Command and \, and that's going to split the clip for us. So that's how we would add a cut point in this case. So now we've created that cut, perfect. We can now go through, just have a quick look, see if there's any others that are a problem for us. In fact, it's picked up the same shot here, which is great. And we're just moving through, pressing the left key and the down key to move forward. Again, it's probably found that this is a bit of a problem, this dissolve here. So let's have a look here. Sure enough, yep, the dissolve is a bit of a problem. So let's just find the best point to cut it. And then we're going to press Command \/ to split the clip. Moving through, again, this is all looking pretty good. And when I did this earlier, it was pretty accurate. The only thing that did tend to trip it up was these dissolves. So again, let's just make the best point for that to cut it. We can. Perfect. Now, where we get into a bit of problems is where we've got shots, obviously, that have got extra cut points that we didn't need. So it's put a cut in that we didn't need. And for the most part, this is looking pretty good. This is a dissolve here that we've missed, but let's look for a point where there's a cut that doesn't need to be there. See here, when I zoom in a bit further for you, you can see that, yes, sure enough, there's a lot of very close together cuts, which tends to indicate something's gone wrong. So let's have a look. So this is fine, but now there's a bright flash, and sure enough, that is a cut that's not supposed to be there. So what is great about doing it this way is that I don't even have to be on the cut point. I can be on the cut point, but I don't have to be. Now, if I'm not on the cut point, or I am on the cut point, pressing Alt or Option \/ will now join the clips together, removing the cut point, and we can be getting on with our edit. Again, same again here, cut point that doesn't need to be there, Option \/ and away we go. And we're clear to start moving through our edit again. So we can just scroll through, sure enough, and that's how we handle if there's an edit point that's been made that we don't need, we can just remove it. Whereas if we did it the other way, the old way, we wouldn't be able to do that as easily if we'd missed it, because of course it would have already broken it up into a clip and it would have been set, and that would have been a bit of a problem. Now there'll be ways around it, but again, it's a bit more of a faff. This makes it very, very easy indeed. One real quick thing, let's just do a completely different example. I have in my media pool, again, a very famous scene from a very famous movie. I'm going to drop it into my timeline, and I'm just going to show you how this works, particularly because this has got a lot of action in this particular scene. So let's put this in, drag it back into there, and again, timeline, scene cut detect, or detect scene cuts, and let it do its thing. And it's going to rip through there, looking at the file and breaking up this whole scene into its various different shots. Okay, almost done. So again, it doesn't take too long. Again, this is about a 3-minute clip, so it's working pretty quickly. And we should be done. Again, same thing, we will see all of these shots broken up on the timeline like we wanted it to be. And again, as I say, because this is a particularly fast sort of action sequence, I'm expecting a little bit more issues where it's trying to put cuts in that it doesn't need. So let's have a look at this. Moving through again with our down key to move through to the next shot. That looks good. Here, when you get sort of smacked in the face here, absolutely not a cut, shouldn't be a cut. Let's just join it back together again. And again here, we get sort of disarmed again. Now I'll show you what I mean. If I'm not on the cut point, what I can do is still use the same command, so Option or Alt backslash, and it will remove the cut. Now what it's doing is it's going to remove the cut to the left. So the cut just preceding the playhead is the one it's going to remove, not the nearest one. Okay. So in this instance, for example, I'm near this cut point here, but if I hit Option backslash, it's going to actually take the one on the left, as you can see there, not the one that we're nearest. If, however, you press the V key to select that particular edit point and then did Option backslash, that's obviously the one it's going to fix. So let's have a look here. So that's obviously good. Cut point's fine there. Now again, we've got a shot here where, again, there's been a cut that doesn't need to be a cut, so just Option backslash to fix it, and we're moving through. And again, what's happened here, this particular shot, again, a lot of fast moving action. It's found a cut point, but there isn't one there. So let's just take that one out. So same principle applies. And actually later on in the timeline, if we scroll through, just after our man Thor arrives, there's a shot here where again, there's a burst of energy. And if I flip back and through, there's a lot of moving, fast moving stuff there. So in fact, that is a cut, but this one here is not, but it's just that pulse of energy showing up, light going over the frame, and it's causing the AI to freak out a little bit. So let's just press again, Option backslash to fix it. Moving on, and again, I think we have another one here. Again, a big burst of light energy, flashing a big light across the screen and the frame, and DaVinci Resolve can't quite see that one. I'll handle it. So again, we're just going to join that one together again. So things like that are the things that are going to trip up the scene cut detection algorithm. But again, for the most part, you can pick those out quite easily. And what I love about the new version is how quickly you can just move through, removing cut points that don't need to be there. And it's all done after the fact of ingest. And it's all done, even if at this point we discovered we'd made a mistake and there was a cut point that shouldn't have been there, or vice versa, we can fix it. The old version, obviously you couldn't, but it's still good that it's there. And it will definitely help a lot of people, I'm sure. So again, I hope this has been useful to you. And if it has been useful, please take a second and just hit that like button for me. Leave me a comment below. Let me know how it was good for you. And I can then comment back. And I do take a moment to try and get back to all of the comments below. So please let me know. It'd be great to know who you are, where you're from, and all that sort of good stuff as well. Because again, we're starting to generate a little bit of a global audience now, which is wonderful. And it's just so great that you're all here, part of this community. So that's it for me on scene cut detection. Hope it was useful for you, and if it was, we'll see you again in another video very soon. Bye for now.